All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our Major League Baseball video here today. For Thursday, June 17th, my name is Brock Page and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally here today, don't forget to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage. Now guys, we are coming fresh off our second straight winning day in a row on my Patreon website. And that's going to put us at 4-2 in our last 6 board member tier package picks on that Patreon page. And if you want to find out who I'm picking in tonight's Brooklyn Nets versus Milwaukee Bucks game, that contest is being featured as my board member tier package pick here this evening. And of course, just as a friendly reminder, if you end up signing up for my board member tier, you're actually going to get access to every single pick that I give out on that site all the way through the end of June. It's an all-inclusive full access pass to everything I post on that page. And of course, the earlier you sign up in the month, the more content you end up getting. And of course, if you don't feel like spending that much money on the board member, package, no problems there either, as we are currently hitting at 70% in our last 10 $1.99 daily best plays on that Patreon site as well. And if you want to access today's daily best play, it's only going to cost you just $1.99. Now, we currently have over 1,075 members who are signed up and active on that page. And if you want to join those folks and get in on the action, link for that site is in the description section below. And once again, that's patreon.com/BrockPage. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some Major League Baseball action. The Orioles take on the Indians, 1:10 p.m. Eastern start time. The Cleveland Indians are -130, totals 9.5. And if you like the O's in an upset on the road here today, they're plus $1.10 for some money line cash. -170, catching the 1.5 on the run line. Georgie Lopez on the bump for Baltimore, Eli Morgan for Cleveland. And the Indians have won 5 out of their last 6 ball games. 3 of those victories coming against Baltimore. Cleveland's gone 19-13 on their home field. And they're in the top 3 in the league in fewest strikeouts at the plate. They're taking on a Baltimore club who hasn't won a game since June 8th. They're currently on a 7-game losing streak, and they have the fewest wins in the American League. They're currently 23 games below 500 right now, and they're in the bottom 5 in road scoring. They also have Georgie Lopez on the bump here tonight, 2-7 record with a 5.64 ERA and a 1.47 WHIP. Now, total-wise, Baltimore is 21-14 to the under when they travel. Meanwhile, the Indians saw 5 out of their last 6 stay under the total of 9.5 runs. I'm going to lean toward the Cleveland Indians -130 and the under 9.5. Next ball game, Diamondbacks versus the Giants, 3:45 Eastern Standard Time. The San Francisco Giants are -205, total 7.5. Kevin Gausman for San Francisco, Zach Gallen for Arizona. Now the D-backs are just 9-30 straight up when they travel, 41% against the number in those road games. Arizona still has the worst record in baseball as they find themselves 29 games below 500. They're also dead last in runs allowed, dead last in hits allowed. They're on a 13-game losing streak, and they haven't won a ball game since June 1st. They're taking on a first-place San Francisco club who doesn't lose too many ball games at home. They're 21-9 straight up at Oracle Park, 19-11 straight up in divisional play. This Giants pitching staff leads the majors in fewest walks allowed. They also give up only 3.6 runs a game. Kevin Gausman's 7-1 thus far in this season, 1.43 ERA and a .78 WHIP. The righties also struck out 97 batters in just over 81 innings. Now, total-wise, Arizona's gone 60% to the over in their last 10. San Francisco's 10-5 to the over in divisional play at home. I'm going to lean toward the San Francisco Giants -1.5 and the over 7.5 runs. Next ball game, Yankees versus the Blue Jays, 7:07 Eastern first pitch. The New York Yankees are minus a $1.15, totals 10.5. Michael King for the Yankees, TJ Zoik for Toronto. Now, Zoik's 0-2 with a 6.75 ERA and a 1.92 whip. The righties also walked more batters than he struck out this year. Toronto, they've lost their last 3 straight home games, and they really struggle against the AL East as the home team as well. Toronto's won just 3 out of 12 divisional games at Solon Field this year. They're also in the bottom 10 in runs allowed at home. Bottom 10 in home hits allowed as well. They're taking on a Yankees team who won their last 2 straight, both of those victories against Toronto. The Yankees also lead the majors in fewest walks allowed on the road. They're holding their opponents to just 3.9 runs a game. Now, total-wise, 5 out of New York's last 7 road games got over the line. Meanwhile, Toronto's gone 16-12 to the over in their games. In Buffalo, I'm going to lean toward the New York Yankees minus 115 in the over 10.5. Next game, Cubs versus the Mets, 7:10 Eastern Standard Time. The New York Mets are minus a $1.25, total 7. Marcus Stroman for New York, Kyle Hendricks for Chicago. Now, Hendricks comes into today's contest with a 4.46 ERA and a 1.35 whip. Chicago's also struggled on the road this season. They've gotten the W in just 14 out of 34 road games, and they scored just 3.9 runs per contest when they travel. The Chicago team is also in the bottom 10 in road hits. They're taking on a Mets club who's been almost unbeatable at Citi Field. They're 5-1 in their last 6 home games, 20-6 straight up at home for the entire season. The Mets lead the majors in fewest hits allowed per contest. They're also giving up just 2.1 runs a game in Flushing, Queens. Marcus Stroman 6-4 with a 2.32 ERA and a 1.08 whip. When it comes to the total on this one, 20 out of New York's 26 home games stayed under the line. Meanwhile, the Cubs are 20-14 at the under when they travel. I'm going to lean toward the New York Mets minus a $1.25 and the under 7 runs. Next matchup, Cardinals versus the Braves, 7:20 p.m. Eastern start time. The Atlanta Braves are minus 185, totals 9. Charlie Morton for Atlanta, John Gant for St. Louis. And as erratic as Gant's been, he still comes into today's start with 4 wins on the year and a 3.36 ERA. St. Louis is coming fresh off a 3-game sweep of the Marlins. They held the Fish to just 3 total runs in that series. Their lineup's also in the top 10 in the league in fewest strikeouts at the plate. Tyler O'Neill's hit 15 home runs and knocked in 43 for St. Louis. O'Neill's in the top 15 in the league in home runs at the plate. Meanwhile, Nolan Arenado's hit 12 homers himself and knocked in 44. The third baseman is currently in the top 15 in runs batted in. Now they're taking on an Atlanta club who's 5 games below 500. They also have a losing home record. The Braves have lost 6 out of their last 7 contests, and they rank in the bottom 10 in the league in runs allowed at home. Charlie Morton comes into today's start with a 4.50 ERA and a 1.30 whip. When it comes to the total on this one, Atlanta's 24-12 to the over as the home team. St. Louis is 21-13 to the over when they travel. I'm going to lean toward the St. Louis Cardinals plus 1.5 and the over 9 runs. Next ball game, White Sox versus the Astros, 8:10 p.m. East. The Houston Astros are minus 130, totals 9. Jose Urquidy for the Astros, Dylan Cease for Chicago. And as good as Cease has been, his whip has started to creep upwards here recently. He comes into today's start with a 1.28 whip. Now, Chicago's taking on an Astros club who won their last 3 straight, and they also got the W in 7 out of their last 9. Houston's been real good against American League competition at home this year. They're 20-10 straight up when they square off against their fellow American Leaguers at Minute Maid Park. Houston also leads the majors in hits and scoring. Jose Altuve's hit 15 homers and knocked in 36. Meanwhile, Yuli Gurriel is in the top 10 in both batting average and RBI in the majors. He's currently hitting .317 with 48 RBI. Now, the first baseman is also in the top 15 in the bigs with a .908 OPS. Now, this Houston pitching staff is also ranking in the top 10 in fewest hits allowed per game as well. Jose Urquidy comes into today's game with a 3.77 ERA and a 1.03 WHIP. When it comes to the total in this one, Houston's last two home games both got over the total. 21-14 at the over at Minute Maid Park this year. Meanwhile, the White Sox saw 2 out of their last 3 road games get over the line as well. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros -130 and the over 9 runs. Next matchup, Brewers versus the Rockies, 8:40 p.m. Eastern first pitch. The Milwaukee Brewers are -155, totals 10. Brandon Woodruff for Milwaukee, German Marquez for Colorado. Despite some struggles in the early going here, Marquez has still struck out 80 batters in just over 76 innings of work. The Rockies have also won their last 4 straight home games, and they've posted a solid record of 23-14 straight up at Coors Field. The Rockies have also successfully cashed in on the run line in 65% of their home games. They're in the top 3 in home scoring, top 3 in home hits. Ryan McMahon's in the top 10 in the league in homers, top 20 in runs batted in. The second baseman's hit 16 homers and knocked in 43. Meanwhile, Raimel Tapia, he's also in the, he's batting .299, which puts him in the top 15 in the league in batting average as well. They're taking on a Milwaukee club who just got swept in 3 games by the Cincinnati Reds. They scored just 4 total runs in that series. This Brewers lineup is dead last in the majors in hits on average per contest. They also scored just 3.9 runs a game. And when the Brewers are on the road this year, they're actually striking out over 10.3 times a game. Now, total-wise, when it comes to the number in this one, Colorado went 60% to the over in their last 10, 18-11 to the over against the National League at home. I'm going to lean toward the Colorado Rockies +1.5 in the over 10 runs. The next ball game, Reds versus the Padres, 8:40 East. The San Diego Padres are -175, total 7.5. Joe Musgrove for San Diego, Wade Miley for Cincinnati. Now Miley's 6-4 with a 2.92 ERA and a 1.12 WHIP. The Reds are on a 6-game winning streak right now, and they also got the W in their last 4 straight road games. Cincinnati's now 4 games above 500, and they rank in the top 5 in scoring on average per contest. Jesse Winker's in the top 10 in the majors with 17 home runs. Now the outfielder is also in the top 3 in the league in both batting average and OPS. The slugger is currently hitting .343 with an OPS of 1.045. Meanwhile, Nick Castellanos is currently leading the major leagues in batting average. He's hitting .350 with an OPS of 1.013. Now they're taking on a sputtering San Diego team who lost 3 out of their last 4. The Pods also got the W in just 2 out of their last 11 at any location. The Padres lineup's in the bottom 10 in the majors in home hits per game. And when it comes to the scoring in this one, San Diego's 21-11 against the National League. They're 21-11 to the under against the National League at home. Meanwhile, the Reds saw their last 2 straight stay under the total of 7.5 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Cincinnati Reds +1.5 and the under 7.5. Next game, Tigers versus the Angels, 9:38 Eastern Standard Time. The LA Angels are -205, totals 9. Shohei Ohtani for Los Angeles, Matt Manning for Detroit. Now, Manning actually makes his MLB debut here today. He struggled with giving up homers in AAA ball this year. The Tigers are also 10 games below 500, and they've gotten the W in just 14 out of 34 road games. This Tiger lineup strikes out more than any other team on the road. They're fanning over 10.7 times a game when they travel. They're taking on an Angels club who still won 6 out of their last 9 despite their recent struggles. They're also in the top 3 in home scoring, top 5 in hits. Now, Shohei Ohtani's taken the bump here today, and he's gotten much better recently with his walks. He's also coming into today's contest with a 2.85 ERA and a 1.18 WHIP. Now, total-wise, the Angels have gone 9-1 to the over in their last 10 ball games, 23-11 to the over at Angels Stadium. Meanwhile, the Tigers have gone 60% to the over in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the LA Angels -1.5 and the over 9 runs. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup. Rays versus the Mariners, 10:10 p.m. Eastern start time. The Tampa Bay Rays are -175, numbers 8.5. Rich Hill for Tampa, Justin Dunn for Seattle. Now, Dunn's just 1-3 on this season, 134 WHIP coming into today's game. The Mariners are also coming fresh off a 7-2 loss to the likes of Minnesota. They dropped 5 out of their last 9 ball games as well. Now, in addition to having a losing record thus far in the season, Seattle's dead last in the league in hits at the plate at home. They're also averaging nearly double-digit strikeouts a game at the plate at T-Mobile Park. Now, they're taking on a Tampa club who leads the entire league in road wins. The first-place Rays are currently 24-12 when they travel. They also lead the majors in road scoring. Austin Meadows is in the top 15 in home runs, top 5 in RBI. The Sluggers hit 15 home runs and knocked in 50. Meanwhile, Brandon Lau has hit a dozen homers and knocked in 30 himself. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, Tampa's 25-11 to the over when they travel. Seattle's 7-3 to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward the Tampa Bay Rays -175 and the over 8.5. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. Powered to you by my Patreon website. I like Cleveland -130, under 9.5. San Francisco -1.5, over 7.5 runs. New York Yankees -1.15, over 10.5. New York Mets -1.25, under 7. St. Louis +1.5, over 9 runs. Houston -1.30, over 9. I also like Colorado +1.5, over 10 runs. Cincinnati +1.5 and the under 7.5. I'm also leaning toward the LA Angels -1.5, over 9 runs. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 4-2 in our last 6 board member tier package picks on my Patreon website. We're also hitting at 70% in our last 10 $1.99 daily best plays on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the Tampa Bay Rays -175 and the over 8.5. Now, if you found yourself really enjoying this video here today, please feel free to give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button. And if you're new here today or this week, please feel free to welcome yourself to the Brock Page sports betting community by hitting that subscribe button as well. I'd love to connect with you on a daily basis. With that, guys, now it's time for our shout-outs portion of the show. I'm going to give some shout-outs to our top 10 YouTube commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to LastMan223, Renisha Brown, G. Jeffrey, RC New York City. Shout out to Joe B. Shout out to Travi Devan, Blaine Medvick, Mike Ernest, Saw Sensei, Master Drip Lord, and last but certainly not least, gotta give a shout out to my man, Travis Jones. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys end up getting a package here today on my Patreon website, just keep in mind you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of June. Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Thursday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.